Everyone knows Batman's one rule, and that is he does not distribute the final justice when it comes to the bad guys. He is a judge, he is a jury, but he is not an executioner. However, every once in a while, some hack will come along and try to say, Batman needs to be more like the Punisher. And one such person is Zack Snyder. Fortunately, though, comic book writing legend Grant Morrison debunks that.
Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute. Going for a ride down the
Hi everyone, my name is Jacob Airy. Welcome to my vidcast, StudioJake, where I talk about all things pop culture. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you want to support the channel, you can go to my locals. The link is in the description. Okay, so this has been a big debate ever since the Arkham games and Batman v Superman because new Gen Z and some young millennial fans don't know the lore, the rich history of Batman within the comics. And one of those morons is hack filmmaker Zack Snyder, who has done exactly one good movie. Okay, maybe two if you count that Owl cartoon he did. And that would be, his plethora of, how he tried to take the DC universe. He wanted the DC EU to be woke and full, where Superman, instead of him just being a good Kryptonian who wants to save humanity, now he has to have like all this identity crisis and woe is me and then Batman it just has to be the Punisher, right? He has to mow down criminals, and then so on and so forth. Of course, Wonder Woman is all amazing. She's all knowing, all wise. She doesn't have any flaws or struggling, which, by the way, I really like Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, and I really like Henry Cavill as Superman, and I am okay with Ben Affleck as Batman. However, Zack Snyder's really crappy writing and directing ruined those characters. And he's been called out before about his stance on how Batman breaks his one rule, and he always throws like these hissy fits about it. I'm surprised he doesn't wet himself on stage when he does it, but he did this again. So this is according to Bounding into Comics. The Batman does not kill. At least that is what most of us Bat faithful like to think. Occasionally, someone will will waltz along like the Joker and get him to break that rule, the one rule he lives by to keep the streets of Gotham safer. Zack Snyder is one such Joker who's unafraid to poke the bear of fandom. He hates Batman fans. Let's just be real. He hates us. He hates all of us. In Batman v Superman, he had the Bat slaying several thugs in preposterous scenarios, aping Frank Miller. Okay, Frank Miller, what Batman was brutal, but Frank Miller's Batman still did not execute criminals. I just want to make that clear. Let's not forget, this is the same man who had Soups slay Zod to the shock and awe of everyone. Yeah, he could have used originally Nolan wanted Zod to just be sucked into the Phantom Zone projector, but Snyder, he has to have good old boy Superman, execute the villain because who doesn't want to see Superman be just as bad as every other knockoff version of him. Far from retreating from this dubious decision, Snyder routinely leans in and defends it whether we're talking about Batman or Superman. The guy likes seeing superheroes stoop to the level of their enemies and casually commit homicide. People are always like, Batman can't kill. I added that. Batman can't kill his canon, he explains to the Joe Rogan Experience. And I'm like, okay, the first thing I want to do when you say that is I want to see what happens, Snyder would add. And they go, well, don't put him in a situation where he has to kill someone. I'm like, well, that's just like you're protecting your God in a weird way, right? You're making God irrelevant. A plurality, at the very least, of fans would disagree with that statement, and Grant Morrison is among them. The Doom Patrol and Animal Man scribe rebutted Snyder on Substack. I was reading how film director Zack Snyder thinks Batman should kill as part of the character's self-imposed mission to stop crime, Morrison wrote. If Batman killed his enemies, he'd be the Joker, and Commissioner Gordon would have to lock him up. Morrison argues that Bruce psychologically is still the boy deep down inside who watched his parents murder in Crime Alley. That Batman puts himself in danger every night but steadfastly refuses to murder is an essential element of the character's magnificent, horrendous, childlike psychosis, the writer added. So go read the rest of the article at boundingintocomics.com. But Grant Morrison is right. This is something that people don't understand. So, like, when people were playing the Arkham Knights game, they assumed, or even the previous games, because you can do all these things with the Batmobile where you can ram into people and you see them go flying. However, the game always makes it clear that these guys like get back up and their avatars kind of fade away, like that happens in NPC video games, right? Where they'll disappear. So that's not the same. They'll also point to Tim Burton's version of Batman, where Batman takes out a couple of villains occasionally. And okay, we didn't like it then. Everyone's acting like we just liked how Michael Keaton portrayed Batman in those movies, and we like how Jack Nicholson portrayed the Joker, and how Danny DeVito portrayed the Penguin, and how Michelle Pfeiffer portrayed Catwoman. It's got nothing to do with that. We liked it then. And then they also try to will selectively edit scenes in Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises to make it look like Batman kills. And while I won't deny that there are deaths in the Dark Knight trilogy, Batman is never the what they call the efficient cause of it. He is the incidental cause because of what's going on around him, but it's not like with Hack Snyder putting a machine gun on the Batmobile and he's mowing down villains in alleyways and he's just like blasting there with guns and then all this ridiculous nonsense. It's so stupid that I remember when or he's bashing in brains, you know, and it's true that certain writers have escalated the type of brutality Batman delivers onto the bad guys. And like I said, Frank Miller's Batman, it's true that like he'll burn villains, he'll maim them, he'll break their arms, he'll threaten to leave them. But Frank Miller's Batman still doesn't execute or slay any of his villains. And he regrets not slaying the Joker in The Dark Knight Returns. That's a fact. He says that I wish I hadn't let you live, basically, in that dumb tunnel of love scene. But I mean, not the scene itself isn't dumb. It's dumb that it took place in the tunnel of love. I'm so sick of writers trying to put some sort of romantic connotation between Batman and the Joker. It's very stupid. But anyway, that's another thing I don't like about modern writers. Now, a lot of the people who defend Batman slaying his enemies will point to the classic Golden Age Batman who had a gun on his holster and also executed a few villains. But if you actually read in the context of the comics, Batman isn't going around like the Punisher and just blasting them away. What he's doing occasionally, he did that one time, but again, it wasn't humans. They were these monstrous clones that Dr. Hugo Strange had created. They weren't actually man and or the men, I should say. And also with the other times, it's always like these rare scenes where like a thug is trying to kill him, so Batman kind of reacts a little lethally. It's not like how they're trying to say it is, like in Hack Snyder's universe. So putting that aside, it just goes to show you how these woke Hollywood directors, these DEI directors, they want to force their own ideology in them. And I can already hear the comment section. What are you talking about? Zack Snyder's not a woke director. Yes, he totally is. He like I described, he turned Jonathan Kent from just this good man who wanted Clark to have a normal life, and sort of like Uncle Ben wanted him to wait till the right opportunity to use his powers, to the sad sack. Oh man, you should just keep it a secret because people might kill you. And again, no shade on Kurt Russell, who's a very talented actor, but again, the way he was written, that character was written in those movies, and the way that Zack Snyder directed it. What is with all the sad sack stuff? Another thing is Zack Snyder keeps calling these characters gods, which is another misinterpretation because again, he's a hack who hates the fan base. He doesn't understand. We don't see these characters as gods. Maybe with the exception of Wonder Woman, who's like a literal demigod, right? Or but even if you look back to the history of Superman was not meant to be this messiah figure that later writers, especially after the death of the Superman storyline, tried to put on him. And by the way, I'm not saying that writers who came after that were all bad. There were some very talented writers. Superman was supposed to be more like Moses. If you look back at the rich history of Superman from his creators, he wasn't meant to be this mythical being that humanity, worshipped. It was supposed to be the idyllic person who stood for truth, justice in the American way, who was leading us into a better life. That's why Superman goes out of his way to save kittens out of trees. Why he goes out of his way to help a person who's threatening to self-delete themselves, because Superman wants to show that there's always hope. But Zack Snyder, he kind of paid a little bit of pennies toward the hope thing, making the S the hope. But then there's no hope in Superman stories. Superman just looks on after the congressional bombing, like, can I really help? It's not like I can fly people to a hospital. I'm just gonna fly away. Come on. That was a really, and people were like, oh, watch the full scene in the director's cut. The full scene is even worse. After the bombing, he just was like, oh, can I help? Oh no, I guess not. Bye. It's what the heck, man? And then in Justice League, when he's fighting the big baddie at the end, he just starts pummeling. Where's the hope in that? Oh my gosh. Zack Snyder has no idea who these characters are. He just like the MCU, he just wants to grab the name brand and slap them onto his self-insert characters. He wants to be that version of Superman. He wants to be that version of Batman. He wants to be that version of Wonder Woman. He doesn't care about the rich history, about the lore of these characters. And good for Grant Morrison for standing up to this, because us real Batman fans, not Snyder fans, us real Batman fans who have been reading the comic books all of our lives, who have watched Batman the Animated Series, who have watched Superman the Animated Series, who watched Wonder Woman and Justice League, we are sick of it. We want our characters portrayed how we remember them. And I'm not saying it has to be word for word by the comics, although I think Batman Gothic would be an excellent one that could be word for word duplicated into a film. But just where the rich history, where the lore stands, it matters. And listen, if you would like me to talk about this more in some way, like if you want me to go into the lore behind Batman or the lore behind Superman or Wonder Woman or whoever it is, let me know, because I'm so sick of these Hollywood pretenders coming in and thinking they know better just because they read the Wikipedia page, or he read The Dark Knight Returns, or played Batman Arkham Knights. It is absolutely silly. It's absolutely stupid. And I don't think I'm alone in the fan base. I'm not trying to speak for all Batman fans or all Superman fans or all Wonder Woman fans, but I don't think I'm alone in this. We are sick and tired of having our favorite characters deconstructed, where where the Hollywood pretenders subvert our expectations. We are sick of that. We want to see our characters portrayed. And I really think that's why the Batman was, I've talked about this with Jester Bell. Really think that's why the Batman was so successful with fans, was it was just a breath of fresh air, going from, the Ben Affleck sad sack Batman to the more punk version of the Dark Knight that Robert Pattinson portrayed in the Batman. So that's my 2 cents. But I am really sick of Zack Snyder's whining. You lost, man. You lost. I mean, you won. You had everything you wanted, but all your lies, all your pretension, all your posturing, all your fake bots, they failed you. Have fun making Rebel Moon.
Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute. Don't pull right down the side, PCH, country limit. I don't need a